legal affairs. And this just names a few of the areas that Jere's worked in and headed up. But I think probably the most important part of Jere's career there was his teaching career, where he received numerous honors. And some of his students were Chris Kaminsky and Chris Carr. Now, some of y'all might not be impressed by that. He did a great job with both of them, I'm happy to say it. But that's, when he became president, I said, the only downside I see to this, Jere, is the fact that we're going to lose you in the classroom for several years. But I think he'll be back once he gets everything running the way he wants it to. So, and might I also add, probably the thing I really enjoy about Jere is you get to know him as his sense of humor. He's a lot of fun to be around, particularly with Bulldogs winning. That's what he has the most fun. Y'all please join with me and welcome the 22nd President of the University of Georgia, Professor Jere Morehead.
Just ignore this.
I've just been told to ignore something that looks very formidable that's been put up here on the lecture, but I'll do my best to do so. Let me begin by just thanking Chairman Morehead for that very kind and generous introduction. He has been so supportive of me during my first 10 months as president of the University of Georgia, and it's been heartening to just have a short ride from Athens to Gainesville when I need to talk about some critical issues facing our university. And I thank you, as well as all members of our Board of Regents, for their faithful support, not only of the University of Georgia, but of higher education in general in this state. There are so many individuals in this room that I would spend my entire remarks thanking you if I started down that list. But I do want to make this point very clear. We appreciate at our institution this year that we received tremendous support, not only from our Board of Regents, but also from the governor, from the General Assembly. And I think we've made some significant progress this year in addressing a number of critical needs at our institution. But that's not what this speech is about today. This speech today is to focus on economic development and what the University of Georgia is doing in that regard. And although my former student, Chris Carr, is not here, and I had a number of jokes to tell all of you about him that I'll save for the future, I do appreciate that Gretchen is here representing her department and has certainly been very supportive of our institution's efforts as well. It's also good today for me to acknowledge, if you don't know her already, our Vice President for Public Service and Outreach, Dr. Jennifer Fromm. She certainly shares my commitment that the role of the University of Georgia is to make this state stronger and to make this state better. And that the University of Georgia does that not only by educating young people, but also by playing a role in the economic well-being of our state. And certainly she has appreciated the important balance that this university plays as it seeks to take the long history of public service and outreach at our institution and move it forward in a very modern and dynamic way. And Jennifer and her team have done a lot of great things in a very short period of time to put us on the right track. I know, for example, that her office has been working very closely with GEDA and the Department of Community Affairs in hosting a series of professional development workshops around the state. They've already held two, one in Athens and one in Tifton, that were very well received by those that attended them. And the Vincent Institute, which is also under Jennifer's area, has been doing a lot of training for our development authorities across the state. And that training also has been recently revised and renewed in a way to make it more dynamic and relevant as we move forward. And so that's really what I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about today. How does the University of Georgia move forward in a more dynamic and in a more engaged way to ensure that what we are doing in this state is aligned to the economic interests of this state? Because as I have said over and over again in my first year as president, a strong state is essential for a strong University of Georgia. And I also believe that the converse of that is true, that a strong University of Georgia, as well as a strong Georgia Tech, benefits this state in a very dynamic way. If you look across the country, the places where higher education is well supported, where our higher education has intertwined itself with the economic interests of the state, those states are doing very well as a result of that alliance, as a result of those relationships. And that is what we have been emphasizing even more now than ever before as the state's land-grant university. Now, you may know that one of the first acts that I did as president of the University of Georgia, I actually did it on my first day as president, last July 1, was to establish an economic development office here in Atlanta. Now, it's not a big office. It's led by one individual, Sean McMillan, who is with Chris Carr at the Economic Development Program in Dalton today. But that office, which reports jointly to Jennifer Fromm's shop as well as our Vice President for Research, David Lee's operation, is focused on making sure that the University of Georgia is not sitting over there in Athens isolated from the rest of the state, but instead is involved in the key economic decisions and activities that are going on in this state, and that the university is providing its expertise through its faculty to help drive those initiatives forward. So Sean's job is both easy and complex. It's easy in the sense that he understands that his job is to link everyone together. The problem for Sean is trying to link all those faculty, finding the right ones to match with the right business interest. It's a big job, it's an important job, it can be complex at times, but it's what the University of Georgia has to be doing more of if we are to ensure that we are playing a vital and important role in economic development in the state of Georgia. We have, in my view, the most remarkable intellectual resource in this state, sitting in Athens. Some of it is in Griffin, some of it is in Tifton, some of it is out in Gwinnett County, but it's our faculty. And those faculty have to be better utilized, in my view, in driving the economic engine of this state forward. We're trying to help the governor's office, we're trying to help the Department of Economic Development, we're trying to help the Department of Community Affairs, and any other entity that needs faculty expertise with respect to some economic development initiative. We're trying to build connections, not just in Atlanta, but across the state. I've had the pleasure of going to all parts of the state in my first year in office, and I'm headed in the next several days to other places in Georgia that I haven't yet gotten to, such as Valdosta. And every place that I go, I try to make this point, that our economic development initiative is not just about Atlanta, because it's the whole state that matters to the future of the University of Georgia and to the people of Georgia. One of the best things I have had the pleasure of doing since I became president was spending a day down at Robins Air Force Base with the president of Georgia Tech. And our two deans of engineering were with us that day as well. And the focus of the day-long meeting with the generals and with the other leadership at the Air Force Base was how could we get more engineers to go to work there in the future. Because without those engineers coming to Robbins, it jeopardizes the long-term viability and strength of that Air Force Base. And so we got to talk through, what kinds of co-op programs, internship programs, initiatives would be needed to strengthen that kind of relationship between our institution and Robbins Air Force Base. Now, why is that important? It's not just important because we care about the success of our military. It's also important because that Air Force Base is vital to Middle Georgia, and to the extent that we support the growth and the development of that installation, we support the economic vitality of that part of the state. And those are exactly the sorts of things that I want to see the University of Georgia doing more of all the time, everywhere across the state. Now, we consider it a great success when we can put a faculty member on a project, and that project ultimately then leads to the successful outcome of more businesses in this state. And Chairman Wilhite referenced some of that across all of our institutions. But let me just focus on a few related to the University of Georgia. There are now 350 commercial products on the market that began as research at the University of Georgia. There are 1,000 active licenses that came from those research initiatives, and a quarter of those are directly connected with businesses currently operating in the state of Georgia. And you'll be familiar with just a few of these examples. Tiff Grain Grass, which is going to be used in the 2014 World Cup games in Brazil. Interactive Science in 3D, which has now become a highly successful educational software program. Synergiva, which is developing new medicines for rare human diseases, and now has a current value of $1.3 billion. Even when you think about the peanut industry or the blueberry industry, all of those industries, which are vital to this state in some way or another, are directly related to research endeavors at the University of Georgia that drove forward the product that is produced. When I return to campus later this afternoon, I'll be meeting with a person very involved in the peanut industry. Because for us, the support that the peanut industry provides our research activities is critical to what our faculty is doing. But for this person in industry, it's also critical to their effort to produce a better and larger product for their own company. That's the sort of thing that's important. It's the sort of thing that I think the University of Georgia not only needs to do, but must do if it's to play its proper role as the flagship institution in this state. I could go on and on with our list of accomplishments in that regard, but let me give you just one example that I think sums it up. Very recently, the University of Georgia was recognized as one of only 16 institutions of education in this country as an economic prosperity university. And that designation simply means that we're being recognized because of our ability to bring public and private partnerships together for economic development. Only 16 across America, and UGA is one of them. I am very proud of that kind of recognition and believe that's the kind of recognition that Georgia needs to aspire to more in the future. We have 17 UGA small business development centers operating across the state. We believe that those activities are directly impacting the state of Georgia in a positive manner. In fact, according to the Department of Economic Development, 99% of Georgia companies employ fewer than 500 individuals. Therefore, the work that SBDC does is directly relevant to that kind of business entity in this state. I've been told that SBDC alone has been responsible for creating 10,000 jobs in the last 5 years. That's the sort of stuff that I'm very proud of. It's the kind of work that the University of Georgia has to do because it relates to our mission, because it's important, because it's meaningful, and because it will make this state a better place in the future. I believe at the University of Georgia that we have the expertise, we have the resources, we have the will, we have the leadership to play a greater and greater role in economic development in the state of Georgia. And what I think is most critical is that the people that work for us have to live the land-grant mission, and they have to understand that mission. They have to understand that the university can't operate all by itself, doing what it wants to do. It has to operate in a means and in a way that supports the people that have built that university. One of my favorite quotes comes from the former president of Indiana University, a gentleman by the name of Herman Wells, who said the following: "Academic isolation has long been impractical, but in today's world it has now become impossible. A university has to do much more than just stand guard over the nation's heritage. Universities now must illuminate the present and shape the future, and that demands cooperation, a union of strengths." And that is, in my view, the motto that the University of Georgia must operate under if we are to play the vital role of the flagship land-grant institution in this state. All of you in this room are our partners in this endeavor. We want to serve you. You may not know how to reach us. Well, you can start with me. If no one else is responding to you at the University of Georgia, then just simply email directly to me, and I promise you're going to get a response very quickly. Because we don't want the bureaucracy that some feel about a big public university to prevent you from engaging as you need to for the kinds of help that's important for your own success as a business. The best thing that can happen to our university is for this state to continue on an upward trajectory of economic growth, of economic development, of economic strength, because that will simply provide them the resources for the University of Georgia to continue to rise and to get stronger